Republic Op-Ed, December 13, 2016. America the Beautiful? Good morning, beautiful Americans. Today we rise with a sense of security, a sense of knowing, a sense of importance in the world, a sense of identity as Americans. But come next week, we may not be so lucky because too many indifferent and undisciplined political, military, financial and national security yesterdays have destroyed any chance we had at self-governance in the near future. Truth is, we blew it. We failed ourselves. We fell asleep at the wheel and let a foreign power drive the American dream into a ditch. We allowed our culture to be fiscally, morally and legally, international court, bankrupted back in 2013, and we were assigned and have already come through bankruptcy proceedings and full work-through program over the last 2 years, for a quiet agreement made with our two largest creditors, Russia and China, which we agreed to conceal, and assist in an incredibly well-choreographed bogus election result that will be revealed to world population very soon. How many Americans, today, would believe such a story, let alone begin to research it and possibly even add to its validity with facts? A handful of marbles maybe? Maybe. Try less than a handful of ping-pong balls. Most to all Americans simply don't believe anything is broken with our nation. And when I say broken, I mean collapsed. It's too scary to look at. It's too much to ponder, let alone fix. So the natural human reaction is to look away, not deal with the problem, and pray it gets better by someone else's doing. In fact, how many reading this enlightened blog, website, even hold this reality that I've just presented as even possible, let alone already historically accurate in the past tense? I bet a few of you might consider the possibility now, maybe a few more say maybe, just maybe, parts of that are true, even a few of you hope it's all true, but deep in the recesses of your hearts, this wacky internet theory could never be 100% truthful, let alone already have happened. No way. You personally are watching the store too closely to be this in the dark, and there's no way such monumental events could have escaped the collective attention of an entire patriotic nation of Americans, nearly 320 million strong. So what comes next is going to foreign to most, even scandalous to those who live and breathe politics on mainstream media. But Americans who believe they participated in a traditional patriotic democratic national election with non-predetermined presidential candidates, are about to get the surprise and gift of a lifetime. Because on December 19, 538 appointed voters from some mythical electoral college system, which does not technically exist in form and most Americans know very little about by design, will indeed not elect the next president and vice president to steward this great country. None of you reading this will have a sitting USA president or vice president by January 6, 2017. www.archives.gov web link. I say this because by federal law no one knows the true identity of electoral college voters, because that is a private matter, never originally written or amended into the Constitution. A little detail they left out of the Hamilton musical. As such, they voters are only known to a small circle of decision-makers, who run their respective political parties, who is the vast majority of elections prior, always vote for the winner of the general election for the popular vote. But come Monday of next week, the popular vote is not enough to elect Donald Trump now, is it? And those 538 electoral college voters will need to head to their respective state capitals and submit a faithless electoral vote for whom they believe would make the best president and vice president of the United States of America, irregardless of the 137 million people who voted, and of those, 197 are Democratic or loyal to DC and don't matter. Thus, just doing the simple math, the truth is only 241 Republican electoral voters really matter in this election cycle, and of those, Donald Trump need only lose 37 of his projected 306 to lose the necessary 270 majority needed to be our next President of the United States of America. Translated, that means just a smidgen over 36 people control the political, judicial and legislative fate of 320 million Americans. Shut the front door and color me stupid. Maybe we should put down those remotes and read a book or two on constitutional ethics. Understand that all of this active is planned, legal and under the rule of federal law per your beloved Constitution, as Electoral College voters may vote for anyone they see fit as being president, and not vote for anyone they do not per the freaking Constitution. And while they may have to pay a small fine, and be thrown out of their position per state law, under federal law, aka the Constitution, they are free to elect whomever they feel is most fit without imprisonment or severe penalty. Now, you're probably already starting to hear a lot about the law under the Constitution, and that trend will most likely continue up until the election college votes next Tuesday. Expect President-elect Donald Trump to be even more controversial in an obvious attempt to acting more unconstitutional in all of his business dealings, intelligence briefings, and geopolitical statements leading up to what many fear will be his imminent election and ultimate president inauguration on January 20, 2017. Yet only 37 people will actually determine if he is indeed fit to govern, and we understand the major of those have already made their decision back when they were sworn in to uphold the Constitution by sitting Republican leader Speaker Paul Ryan at the 2016 GOP convention, who not so ironically was unanimously elected as Speaker of the House by his peers in October 2015, and just recently re-elected by a wide margin per the outgoing House of Representatives this past November. How convenient. And all this happens as Pope Francis makes his first visit to the US in September 2015. How interesting. I wonder what the Vatican has to do with all of this. But that's another op-ed. This means 46-year-old Speaker of the House Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, and Speaker Ryan alone, can and has determined who the electoral voters will be on December 19, 2016, and thus per his instruction, can reverse the outcome of this election by convincing just 37 of his self-appointed Republican Electoral College voters to select him over Donald Trump. By accomplishing this simple feat, Speaker Ryan will automatically toss out the general election popular vote, and send the presidential election outcome into the House of Representatives, who will then control the final presidential voting process under constitutional amendment for Electoral College non-majority voting. The Senate does the same thing to elect a vice president. So to review, this means that when, not if, President-elect Donald Trump does not reach the required 270 Electoral College necessary to be elected this nation's next president, the House of Representatives will more than likely elect their own prized and fearless policy wonk leader, Speaker Paul Ryan, to be the 45th President of the United States. And that's exactly how Russia and China set it up long ago, because they did read all the books on constitutional ethics, and law, and history and structure. That's why you're always hearing Speaker Paul Ryan talk about following the Constitution, and why he even carries a copy around in his coat pocket, showcasing it at press conferences. It's just amazing how we have all been set up to believe this coming Electoral College breakdown is organic, and that powerful sovereign banking families in Asia and Eurasia would not be willing to go to battle in a silent World War III currency war, in order to both control a valuable asset such as the Republic of the United States, and set it back on stable moral, legal, judicial and financial pillars so that it will run properly and avoid the same destructive tendencies of those same treacherous European banking families. Sadly, this means of the nearly 137 million Americans who voted in November 2016 election cycle, all did so in vain, as they were simply unaware or indifferent to the fact that their government's political structure, i.e., the Electoral College math that was so long ago rigged against every American from ever having a true democratic say in who would govern their nation's affairs. Thank you very much, Alexander Hamilton, circa 1804. n.wikipedia.org web link. Now, whether the House of Representatives actually elects Speaker Paul Ryan and/or Vice President-elect Mike Pence on the Senate side is still up in the air from my vantage point. Many believe someone like General Joseph Dunford will be nominated and elected by the Senate to make it appear as if the U.S. Congress is actually doing its job and balancing out the ticket with a South Boston-raised Democrat who is currently the well-regarded chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, basically running all of our military branches and operations worldwide. Sounds a lot like what real presidents used to do. But I digress. Look, it is impossible to answer certain questions until we see how the Congress actually votes between the dates of January 6th and January 20th. But this is certainly what we've heard, as well as Mike Pence becoming the new Speaker of the House, replacing his pal and next President Paul Ryan. Why else would a devout Christian like Pence be willing to be sexual deviant Donald Trump's political running mate? The better question: why would Russia and China willingly select a scumbag so unpopular, so arrogant, so racist, so sexist, so vulgar, so violent, so old as all is the truth about one Donald Trump? Do they really think his candidacy could fool an entire nation, an entire planet? That such an immoral man could be allowed to become an American president? Well, it happened, didn't it? Maybe the Donald has just thick enough skin to go through both a brutal national primary process and bloody presidential election cycle. Hey, the guy does have a lot of reality television experience in front of cameras. He is at least in theory popular enough to win the electoral vote, if not the popular vote, should damning information be leaked out about Hillary Clinton a few well-placed months and weeks before the general election. And would Donald Trump engage in this bizarre exercise? He didn't need the money financially. Politically, there's no way he wanted his dirtily laundry hung out to dry. Even the plane he rides on is better than Air Force One. So what's the draw? An election would expand his brand without paying for advertising. He might get real estate preferential treatment in Russia and China as he did them this solid. Maybe they would even let his children redeem the foreign currencies he held at a nice contract rate. Seriously, being in on the fix is the only way to explain the unexplainable of a Trump meteoric political rise to prominence. Didn't his success always feel manufactured, or was it just me? The answer perhaps lies the history of America dating back to its earliest days, when presidents were only supposed to run the military, sign international treaties and be considered the top diplomat for the nation. Presidents today act more like CEOs than diplomats or well-trained military leaders like Washington or Eisenhower. Yet this is where the country was subversively led when the America you know became the United States of America, Incorporated, founded in 1871 and domiciled in Puerto Rico, which was actually a mimic or shadow government made to resemble yet completely usurp your Republic of the United States of America, founded in 1776 by noble forefathers trying to break free from the harsh economic restrictions placed on them by powerful European banking families. These same powerful European banking families followed early American settlers across the Atlantic Ocean, and have through treachery and lawlessness, become the modern planners and executioners of our culture, society, military and government without our knowing. In fact, this malevolent cabal is responsible for all the unsolvable issues that exist as American everyday life, including but not limited to, illegal wars, imploding health care, pharmaceutical drugs, gridlock in a two-party Washington political system, Pentagon forces abuse and spending abuse, reckless international diplomacy, fiat money, failing public education, media oligopolies that lead the population into false conclusions, and much, much, much more. To illustrate the depth and scope of such European influence, it's wise to look at other current government structures based out of Europe that include common membership to European Union, EU, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and European Central Bank, ECB, which functions just like our privately owned Federal Reserve Bank, with overriding monetary control through currency printing and interest rate setting, designed to economically enslave European nation-states and their respective populations. This pattern eerily resembles our own republic, whose once 13 independent sovereign have now become 50 united but enslaved states. European Union, NATO, ECB common members: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden. United Kingdom and Canada are not unlisted as they each have their own national currency not controlled by the European Central Bank, yet both have strong historical ties to Europe through the House of Windsor, who was amnestied in return for Chinese historic bond surrender and the release of Hong Kong back to the People's Republic of China circa 1987. These were your human enslavers before the 2015 Paris Agreement on Climate Change was signed by 209 sovereign nations, including the above-mentioned European Common members, due to the overwhelming fiscal, military and geopolitical pressure placed upon them by Russia, China and other BRICS allied nations. Which, by the way, is wonderful and cause for celebration. However, it should also be cause for deep reflection as to how we got here as Americans being bailed out, again, by another group of foreign powers. Shameful, really. It also begs the question, is America really beautiful? Are we still all that and a bag of chips in the sovereign superpower world, able to engage and put other superpowers in their place to solve the major problems of the world? Oh, hell no. We haven't been that for a long time, in fact. So as Americans, are we the problem and not the solution to this dilemma? Has our collective indifference to such serious matters of the day as poverty, war, policy, government, election structure, law, finance, education, health, etc. been due to an overt addiction for matters non-critical to the planet such as entertainment, sports, video games, social media, sex and bureaucracy? Are we as sleepwalking Americans treated like unworthy children, emotionally unable to be told the truth about their own country's slow demise, rapid insolvency, revised economy and restored government? Hell yes. These are all fair questions if said reforms above do in fact come true, including the hidden revaluation of the world's economic system to a gold standard, as well as the world's currency system, without the vast majority of Americans being the least bit aware that anything significant has structurally defaulted or that our banking system actually collapsed under the weight of our Federal Reserve Bank, who printed an endless stream of USD and Treasury note lies? Do Americans even know the Federal Reserve banking system also defaulted in 2012? And if they did, would they care? How about the fact that the Republic of the United States has already been restored? Or the United States of America, Incorporated, has already been overcome and dissolved quietly and benevolently as not to scare the crap out of the general population who still think their votes count for president? Honestly, are we as Americans even relevant anymore on the international stage, taken seriously within diplomatic bodies of any significance? Or have we been reduced, compartmentalized maybe is a better term, even quarantined, to a second-class, non-sovereign level of emotional and intellectual capacity, whereby the rest of the world does all the adult futuristic planning for the planet, whilst we are put in corner, punished for being misbehaving children and only allowed to participate with humanity whenever we decide to peacefully come out of timeout, apologize for all our violent outbursts and inaccurate speeches of self-importance. When are we as Americans going to begin to take ourselves seriously again as being an equal member of the human race, truly sovereign by divine birthright and thus re-enter the of good standing of all self-determining nations? Sooner than later hopefully, but not right now, that's for sure. Only then will Americans be living in the light of God's truth, instead of this shadow of ignorance we hide behind for shade. Is the American dream so dead? It's already come back and somebody is about to tell us? Boy, I sure hope so, because right now, as an American, I see us as being lower than pond scum internationally. Disgraced. Defeated. Ignorant of our sins. Inaccurately righteous. As only through a serious rededication to national educational quality and accuracy, plus renewed commitment to personal discipline and respect for the spiritual sanctity of family, will America ever be beautiful again.